Today we're going to do something a little bit different, and that is a product review. Specifically, we're going to be reviewing this, or rather, this. Whoa.
Psych. So why do you want an RV GPS? Don't you have a GPS built into your phone? Well, yes, of course you probably do. But there are certain advantages to having a dedicated RV GPS unit. The most obvious is that it frees up your phone to do other things. And this new Garmin RV 890 has an 8-inch screen. It dwarfs any phone. It's more like the size of an iPad mini. So here we have one of the largest phones you can buy. It's a Samsung Galaxy Note. This is a really big boy phone. Here's the GPS. So you can see this 8-inch display is much larger than the biggest phones. The Garmin RV 890 is the latest and greatest RV GPS on the market.
Oh yeah.
In the box, you get the GPS unit with its gargantuan 8-inch display, a couple of power cables, and a really nice magnetic mount.
Nice.
If you're the passenger, you're usually the person that's typing in the destination on the GPS while you're rolling down the road. And leaning over and trying to type on a screen while you're bouncing down the road is pretty tough. So I think being able to remove this and hold it in my hand while I'm searching or typing is very helpful. I think it makes it super easy. So I think that's a major upgrade. Some of you are going to say that in some states, you may not be able to mount something to your windshield, and I think I'm looking at you, California, but if you're not in the People's Republic of California, you may be free, in the land of the free, to put a suction cup on your windshield. It does take up a lot of real estate in terms of visual real estate looking out your window. And so what we have done at the moment is put it very low on the windshield, close to the dashboard, and that kind of consumes a minimal amount of visual real estate looking out the front of the windshield. And no, normally I'm not driving with a big camera staring me in the face. That was just for you guys. Something that's really cool about this display is it can be used horizontally or vertically. So you could, apparently upside down. So you could actually mount the display vertically in your rig if you prefer the vertical orientation of the map.
The first boot.
Connect to a Wi-Fi network, and Garmin makes it quite easy to update your maps and software. When you're setting up this GPS, the first thing you're going to want to do is to plug in your specific rig, whether you have a travel trailer, a fifth wheel, motorhome, whatever. And so the GPS always knows what kind of RV you got, and in theory, what roads will be safe for you to take your RV on. If you have any doubt about the exact specifications of your RV setup, consult the manufacturer website. You can pull up detailed information on your RV width, length, and height. Of course, you can do the same with your tow vehicle. So the GPS ends up knowing the total length of your RV rig and also a rough estimate of the gross weight. So this is the main menu that you're going to see every time you boot up the GPS. And I want to show you in the upper right-hand corner, you can set whether or not you are traveling with a vehicle, and you can switch the GPS to vehicle mode. And now it's assuming we are not towing an RV, or you can switch to RV mode, and of course we have ours set up for a travel trailer. And now the GPS assumes that the total length of our rig is almost 47 feet. The height is 9 feet 8 inches. and we've got the total weight down is about 13,252 pounds, depending upon how much beer I have consumed that week. And I want to show you how you can add your propane. So I'm going to add a couple of propane tanks. We're carrying 2 propane tanks in the front. There are some tunnels and bridges, for example, where they don't want you traveling with propane, and the GPS will alert you if you're approaching an area where you should not be carrying propane.
The GPS will link to your phone using Bluetooth, and that will allow you to get live traffic updates on the GPS, smart notifications from your phone. You can use the GPS as a speakerphone for hands-free calling, and you also will get weather updates.
Now you can see that our weather has loaded.
But what makes this GPS really special are the many RV-specific features that will really help any RV trip go more smoothly.
Now, when you're deciding where to go, let's look at the where to menu display. This is the heart, in a lot of ways, of the GPS. This is probably going to be the first icon that you hit when you're starting a trip anywhere. What I find really interesting here, you've got all sorts of RV specific features. Here on the right, you will see Plan RV services, dump stations, propane, truck stops, tires, RV repairs, even mobile RV repairs, and towing services. So let's look at dump stations, for example. Let's say you need to empty your water tanks. Boom, it just pulled up a list of dump stations that are in our immediate vicinity. Truck stops and fuel stations like Travel Centers of America, Loves. Who doesn't love Loves? Even the welcome centers. So for example, here we see that the Tuscaloosa County Rest Area in Cottondale has a dump station, and those dump stations are usually free. So this is a way that GPS can kind of pay for itself.
There are 2 upgrades I think they've made with this model that I think are really going to improve the way that you plan an RV trip, at least for us, the way that we like to plan. Specifically, the trip planner section itself. You can save trips, you can start a new trip. Once you set a location for where you're starting your trip, you can select your destination, and you can specifically search for campgrounds or historic areas to set as your destination. And you can do that not only by typing in a location, but you can also navigate around on the map. So you don't necessarily have to know the name of the town you're wanting to go to. If you sort of have a general area in a certain state that you're wanting to visit, you don't have to know those individual town names. You can just search that general area, and it's going to pop up everything on the map, and then you can kind of zoom in from there to see where the specifics are regarding whatever category you're searching for. So it could be campgrounds, it could be restaurants, it could be gas stations, dump stations, what have you.
There's some other pretty cool features of this GPS. I mean, for example, the History channel has supplied content for it, in that if you are in a historic area, apparently there are tours that you can take using the GPS.
So like if you're traveling around and you're just looking for interesting sites, for example, Davy Crockett State Park. History Channel has provided some information about it here. Now there's a lot of other stuff in here. I mean, for example, TripAdvisor. Let's say you're looking for a good place to have dinner. You could search by all restaurants, and it's going to kick back a listing of TripAdvisor rankings. So you're really getting sort of the best restaurants in the area according to TripAdvisor. Okay, Garmin. Lake Lurleen State Park.
Going to Lake Lurleen State Park in Coker, Alabama.
The speech recognition software called Garmin Voice Assistant works pretty well and allows you to navigate without ever actually touching the GPS.
In 1/4 mile, turn right on County Route 39.
The navigation experience is excellent. Again, there's a lot of RV-specific information. For example, if you're about to encounter a steep grade, it will let you know.
This GPS also has some nice features such as road signage. Like if you're getting into a lane change situation, you can see the actual signage on the GPS. Obviously, we like this GPS an awful lot, but in a review, you need to hear some negatives about a product too, right? Although the screen is spectacular, it's kind of glossy and reflective, and it can pick up some glare. So I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of a matte finish on the surface of the screen. Perhaps it's possible to put some sort of screen protector over the top that would provide a little bit more of a matte finish. But you know, there are some lighting situations where the screen could be hard to read just due to the glare and reflection. I kind of wish some of our video of the screen had been better, but because it's so reflective, you're probably seeing some reflection when I'm showing you images of the screen. This is an Android-based system, which to me overall is very much a positive. We have been using Android phones for the last couple of years, and so if you have ever used Android software, this is going to feel very much at home to you. It's very much like an Android tablet. One other slight dislike would have to do with the voice assistant. It works very well, noticeably better than the previous Garmin RV GPS we had. It's always listening, which is a fact of life these days with so many devices. But sometimes it gets confused. Sometimes it overhears conversation inside the vehicle and thinks you're asking for directions when you are not. This new Garmin RV 890.
Which result near County Road 890 would you like?
Quiet. Back. Okay, Garmin. Take me to Yellowstone National Park. So that was obviously kind of an easy layup for the GPS, but it's working quite well.
Which result would you like?
3.
Going to Yellowstone National Park South entrance on John D. Rockefeller Jr. Parkway in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming.
My other complaint really has to do with the voice. I'm not really thrilled with Zoe, the standard voice on the GPS. You can change the voice to some other options, but we've lost our favorite option, which was a British butler named Daniel. And so I'm going to try to get that voice on the GPS because I found that voice easier to hear when we're traveling around inside a noisy old diesel truck on the highway. Overall, I'm kind of struggling to find issues with this GPS. I will point out, with our previous Garmin RV unit, we had a couple of issues with navigation, which is kind of like saying, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? Because the core function of the GPS is to navigate you to where you want to go. And with our previous GPS, we noticed the routing was getting a little bit wonky doodle at times and taking us on some strange routes. So far, we've not experienced that issue really with this GPS, but we will be watching it and we will have a lot more data on that point soon. One other minor complaint has to do with the lack of a feature. I love being able to click, for example, campgrounds and have a list of campgrounds. Now, when you click into the individual campgrounds, you'll get all sorts of helpful information if you want about the campground, including the phone number, but these phone numbers are not clickable. It seems like, especially since you're linked up with your phone anyway and can use the device as a speakerphone, these should be clickable phone numbers. It would just make the navigation process that much more easy if you could pull up a campground, tap your device, and immediately call the campground. Because quite often we're calling campgrounds when we're traveling around to see if they have availability, right? In conclusion, I have to say I'm really impressed with this Garmin RV 890. To me, it's a pretty big leap beyond the previous Garmin RV GPS that we've been using for several years. The display is better, the map is better, the navigation is better, the features are better, and it's just much more intuitive to use.
Do you need a dedicated RV GPS? I wouldn't say you need an RV GPS. I would say it is definitely a nice luxury to have. And certainly if you are traveling in the northeastern portion of the United States, there you're going to find a lot of low overpasses, low bridges, and tunnels where you shouldn't be taking your propane. And so having an RV GPS will help you travel more safely. In terms of finding free dump stations and maybe avoiding toll roads, the GPS can kind of pay for itself a little bit. Now these cost about $500, so it's not a minor purchase, but I do think it will make any RV trip much more pleasurable.
Yeah, just make your trip a little more pleasurable.
If you want to check it out and check out other reviews from other owners, of course there will be links beneath this video. Click those links and it'll take you straight to this Garmin unit on the old Amazon. We'll be giving you some more updates on this Garmin unit in the future because we're going to be using it traveling around the country. Until next time, lo-lo-ho, guys.
As always, thanks for checking out our blog. See you next time.